Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to our installment of Scott Selections here for Wednesday, July 20th. Before getting today's play of the day, quick recap of what happened yesterday. We had a loss in tennis with Husler, minus 2.5 games at minus 113 on Bet Online. It was easily the worst tennis beat of my career, and it was also probably the worst tennis beat we've ever had on this channel. So to go through quickly what happened, Husler won the first set 7-6, and he was up a break in the second set. He was serving for the match at 5-4. Now, up to that point, Stricker had not broken him, and he also had not even acquired a break point opportunity. So Husler was serving out of his mind. It looked like we had the match completely under control, and on top of the 5-4 scoreline, he was up 40-love on his serve. So he had triple match point while serving for the match against the guy who had not broken him in the first hour and a half of the match. And then Husler absolutely collapsed. He lost the next 5 points, got broken, and then lost the match in 3 sets. He also had an overhead, which would have won the match at 40-15. He shanked it, hit into the doubles alley, and he ended up losing. So, yeah, it was one of the worst choke jobs I've seen in tennis all year long, and we are the victims of it. So we'll try to get back on track here for Wednesday. However, completely non-existent sports card on Wednesday. MLB All-Star Game was yesterday, so there's no more festivities there. Baseball resumes on Thursday, so no baseball action. There's one WNBA game at noon, so we're not going to talk about that. And there's a bunch of European tennis taking place in the early hours of the morning. So instead, we're going to do something we haven't done in a couple of weeks, if not a month or two. We're going to go back to the UFC. We're going to look at UFC Fight Night, Blaydes versus Aspinall, taking place Saturday morning in the UK. And we're going to do what we normally do, which is go through a couple of fights that I like, talk about my plays, and we're going to end up talking about where the value lies. We'll probably wrap it up in about 10 minutes. But either way, sit back and relax. We'll go through a couple of fights. So starting off, first of 3, by the way. I got 3 plays on the card. We're going to look at the prelim. It's going to be in a matchup between Nathaniel Wood and Charles Rosa. And we're going to take Wood by decision at minus 125 on Fox Bet. And the time recording for these lines is 3 a.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. So a couple reasons why I like Wood to win this fight by decision. First reason, I'm sure a lot of you know who have followed my UFC videos in the past. My favorite method is to take huge favorites, pick exact methods, and try to cut in heavily to the juice. And Wood is a minus 600 favorite. You can shop around. There's a couple of 700s around, but you can get him by decision at minus 125. And the reason why I like decision is because Rosa might not be very good at MMA. However, he's very tough. And each of Rosa's last 6 fights have gone to decision. Meanwhile, each of Wood's last 2 fights have gone to decision. Now, if you want to talk about the potential layoff or ring rust for Wood, I do think that will result in a smaller chance of a knockout or a submission in this matchup. Wood has not fought since October 2020. However, he's such a huge favorite because I don't think Rosa deserves to be in the UFC. I don't think he's very good. But either way, you can look at Rosa's overall numbers, and he's not really good at anything. He came into the UFC as a decorated black belt in BJJ, and he's done nothing with it. He has a 37% takedown accuracy, and he has 38% takedown defense. So he's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu who is awful at takedowns, awful at defending takedowns, and he's also not very good at striking. So I think Wood's going to be able to do whatever he wants, but Rosa has not been stopped in his UFC career, and I do think as a result, he should end up faring pretty well. He was actually stopped once, I take it back, by Shane Burgos in 2017. But after that, he has not been finished. So I do think that he should look pretty durable throughout this fight. I do think that you're going to end up seeing Wood pretty much take it to him. You might see a couple of 30-27s. But I do think with the layoff and with Rosa's just really lackluster skill set, I do think Wood should win this fight pretty handily, but I think he'll win it on the scorecard. So that's going to be the first play. Second play is going to be in one of the more interesting fights on the main card between Krylov and Gustafsson. Gustafsson, of course, has been in a couple of well-known fights against John Jones in the past. However, Gustafsson is completely washed at this stage in his career, and for that reason, we're going to take Krylov by submission at plus 340 on FanDuel. This is going to be our home run attempt here, going for a big plus price. A couple reasons why I do like Krylov at plus 340 for the value. Gustafsson's 35. He's lost each of his last 3 fights, and each of his last 2 fights, he's lost by submission. And he lost to Anthony Smith, and he lost to Fabricio Verdum, past his prime Verdum, before he ended up dipping to a different organization. But Gustafsson's takedown defense and his submission defense have really kind of been underwhelming for the last couple of years. And that's also another concern because Gustafsson has really not fought that much in the last couple of years. If you want to go through the recent performances, that Gustafsson Verdum fight that he ended up losing in the first round was a long time ago. And I do think he should end up struggling with some ring rust, not to mention the fact that he's changing weight classes again. He randomly tried to go heavyweight, lost to Verdum in 2.5 minutes in July of 2020, and now he's going back down to light heavyweight at 35. I don't think it's a great move. I don't really know what moves he has left, but I do think that he's well past his prime, and the reputation alone and him being a name brand might result in people betting on Gustafsson to win this fight. I think Krylov's the better fighter at this stage in their careers. If you want to look at Krylov's career, he has 27 career MMA wins. 15 of them have come by submission, and Krylov is also a master of sports in submission fighting, which is basically the Russian version of a black belt. So he is a crowned expert in the Russian system, or however you want to call it, in submissions, and I do think that he should end up getting Gustafsson to the ground at least once before finishing him. But Gustafsson, at this point, he probably should retire, and I do think that taking a guy who has won 15 times by submission at plus 340 when he's roughly a minus 200 favorite is a very solid deal. And Gustafsson really looked lost on the mat against Verdum. You know, Verdum's a decorated guy in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but the point is, he has really just not looked good in the submission defense department. And I do think that Krylov, if he gets one chance, will make the most of it. And I do think that plus 340 as a result is a very nice value play. And going through the last play, it's going to be the main event. It's going to be between Aspinall and Blaydes. And for this matchup, we are going to go with the favorite here. We're going to take Aspinall on the money line at minus 130 on BetOnline. Couple reasons why I like Aspinall in this fight. First of all, Aspinall in his UFC career has been amazing. He's 5-0 in the UFC, all 5 wins by stoppage. Now, I will concede that Blaydes is easily the best opponent that he's faced. He did have a very nice win by stoppage against Volkov in his last fight. But Aspinall, even though he's known for being a boxer, he's actually very good on the ground, and I think that he's very underrated in that department. We saw him submit Volkov. We saw him submit Arlovsky. He has talent, and I do think as a result, you might see him potentially give Blaydes some problems if Blaydes is able to even secure a takedown or two. The problem that I have with Blaydes, I think he's a one-trick pony, and I know that he won by knockout against Daukaus in his last fight. I think Daukaus is more of a brawler. I think he's a worse version of a Derek Lewis, for example, or a Tuivasa. He's just going to swing and bang, and he really doesn't do anything else. The issue is Blaydes, I think, if he's going to be outmatched in the stand-up, which I think he is. I think Aspinall is a very solid striker. Blaydes is going to commit everything to takedowns. And even though Blaydes has been very good at takedowns in the past, you'll get Aspinall's numbers, and I do think his takedown defense is very underrated. Aspinall in his UFC career, 100% takedown accuracy, 100% takedown defense. So I'm aware the competition level has been a lot weaker than Blaydes, but I do think Aspinall can stuff a couple of takedowns, and I think he's going to dominate in the stand-up. And I do think even if it goes to the ground, Aspinall is actually more decorated on the ground. Despite being a great wrestler, Blaydes is only a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, while Aspinall is an underrated black belt. So I do think that if it ends up going to the mat, I do think Aspinall can actually sneak in a submission there if there's an opportunity. I saw that's about plus 600. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I can see Aspinall winning in all 3 ways. I could see him winning by knockout if he's able to just continuously pick apart Blaydes. We saw Blaydes get knocked out by that one uppercut by Lewis. I'm not going to say that he's going to hit him with the perfect uppercut punch like Lewis did, but I do think that Aspinall is much better in the stand-up, and I think Blaydes is really not that great in the stand-up. I think he's pretty mediocre. He's got power, but the technique isn't great. And if you want to look at everything else, I think Aspinall could win by submission, and I think he easily could win by decision. Now, decision is going to be a bit tricky because most of Aspinall's fights have been very quick. However, it is worth mentioning that Aspinall is the hometown fighter, as he is from the UK, and we know that a lot of these UFC cards, especially on the judges' scorecards, tend to side in favor of the hometown fighter. Whether or not it involves crowd reaction to basic punches, whether it involves the fact that, especially internationally, we have just seen a lot of hometown guys win close decisions, sometimes even via robbery. But I do think Aspinall, with the crowd behind him, should be able to use that momentum to find a way to beat Blaydes. Now, I will admit Blaydes is a good fighter. I think that he's capable of winning. But if Aspinall can even stop some of the takedowns, I think he should win this fight because he's better in every other area. So for that reason, I do think Aspinall money line at minus 130 is a solid play. If you want to take inside the distance, I believe that's plus 120, I think. If you want to take that, shop around. But either way, I do think that he should end up getting the job done at some point during these 25 minutes. So once again, the 3 bets for the upcoming UFC Fight Night card. It's going to be Wood to win by decision at minus 125 on Fox Bet. It's going to be Krylov to win by submission at plus 340 on FanDuel. And it's going to be Aspinall on the money line at minus 130 on Bet Online. Bye, everyone.